Did you hear who the surprise guest at the DNC might be?
Beyonce.
No.
Who?
Even hotter. George W. Bush.
At the
apparently.
DNC?
He's speaking at the DNC. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Apparently that's the surprise guest. We'll see. Really, this just is entertainment. This just is entertainment.
This is wrestling. He switched sides.
People were like pointing out like, this is all scripted. Look at how she's reading from a teleprompter. Just like, bro, this is on TV. What do you think this is?
Sheeple, wake up. When are you going to wake up?
You think they're just going to like do an event off the cuff because they're like that good of orators? Like, no.
They want it to be fun. They want it to be an experience.
Yeah. It's a show. This is prime time. This is everyone's prime time television for the fall. This is what it is.
Long ago are the days of my friend here. He's a good colleague. We just have some disagreements of policy. Mm-hmm. Those days are gone.
Oh yeah, that was over with fucking what's the Mormon guy?
Mitt Romney.
Oh yeah, Mitt Romney. Yeah, that's it, dude. That's all.
When that audience member at that one debate comes up and says to John McCain, he's a communist and he was born in Kenya. He's not an American citizen. John McCain's like, hold on there, Missy. That is an American citizen right there, and he is a good man. We just have some disagreements.
That's all over.
Those times are over. Now it's like, you're a fat idiot and you're stupid and you're dumb.
Yeah.
And that's politics now in America.
Yeah. Kamala, now the funny thing is you brought up the communism part. Now that they're actively saying, yeah, Kamala's a communist and you're going to vote for communism.
That's silly. She's not a communist.
Yeah. Now, are you kidding me, man? She's
just Kamala, man.
Dude, I'm unburdened by the past, you know? Like I'm what can be should be unburdened by what has been.
And if you can't understand that, this is not the party for you.
This is not the podcast.
This is not the podcast. This is Star Wars Loose Cannon. I'm Chris Higgins with my co-host.
And I'm Nick Oswald. I got that cue kind of.
Yeah. Sometimes my cues are unclear, and we are unburdened by the past. Here at Star Wars Loose Cannon. Welcome to the podcast, everyone.
Yeah, what can be back to Star Wars is unburdened by what has been.
Loose Legends.
Cannon, you know? Yeah, Legends, and there are still...
That's what Disney thought when they purchased Star Wars.
I'll stumble on to Disney, like, I'll stumble onto Star Wars Twitter accounts that are like, extending universes canon. I don't watch Disney Star Wars. It's kind of funny. It's kind of ironic. I will say this. There's a lot of people who supposedly don't watch Disney Star Wars that are paying very close attention to Disney Star Wars and then are celebrating when a show gets canceled. A show that I happen to like, by the way. When you hurt the Acolyte, you're hurting me.
You come for the Acolyte, you come for me.
You come for me. First, they came for the Acolyte, and I said nothing because I'm not an Acolyte. And then they come for, next they're coming for Ahsoka, and I said nothing because I'm not Ahsoka. Anyway, no, for a lot of people that like to swear off, like, Disney canon isn't real, I don't like Disney canon, they're very happy when a show gets canceled. I'm like, well, why are you watching?
See, this is where
does it matter to you? If Disney canon is not canon and you hate everything that's happened since 2014, why are you watching and paying attention? Here's the thing with Star Wars. That's the beauty of Star Wars. You can pretend like nothing has happened since 2005. Like if you're a prequel hater, you can pretend nothing has happened since 1998. If you are a prequel liker, you can just say, "Oh, I like the first 6 films." You can pretend none of it has happened.
Yeah, that's available to you. And in our previous episode, I talked to the brothers Corinne, and that's exactly what they are. They've never watched anything Disney has done, and they just don't care. And they're like, I like the old stuff, and I like Legends, and like they don't sit around and whine about Disney.
And their life is probably better for it, right?
Exactly. They're like, I don't get why everyone's so mad about it. Just don't. If you don't like it, then just don't.
Just not mine.
Yeah, just don't watch it.
It's not for me.
So and that's totally fine.
I mean, it'd be one thing if Disney sent their goons, like their Mickey Mouse hatted goons to your house and burned all of your copies of Heir to the Empire. But guess what? It's still sitting on my shelf. Nobody took it.
No one took it.
I can go read it whenever I want.
Yeah, it's all still there. You can still enjoy it. And I don't get really the point of complaining about stuff, because sometimes that's what I do. It's like, I'm not really sure I want to watch Acolyte. I'm not going around talking to everyone about that they shouldn't watch it. I just maybe haven't watched it. I watched the first episode, thought it was okay.
Yeah,
I'm 280.
It is the horniest Star Wars. I will say it is the horniest.
Why didn't you just
Star
say
Wars.
that before?
For sure.
You should have led with that.
It's very horny. Yeah, and again, that's probably its downfall, because you can't confront, 35-year-old neck-bearded dudes with horniness. It just makes them feel bad.
It makes me feel really bad.
Makes me feel.
But you know what makes me feel good, Nick?
I feel bad.
Is the Dark Knight series from Christopher Nolan.
Not the Batman?
Not. I like the Batman. I like the Batman. I really like the Batman. I love Batman so much. I want to tell you about something else that I really like, which is mental clarity and energy throughout my day, start to finish, till I go to bed, of course. And to achieve that, I like to take a little shot called Magic Mind. Magic Mind is a mental performance shot packed with vitamins and nutrients that you can use as a daily complement to your caffeine or coffee regimen. I personally love to drink Magic Mind after my first coffee of the day, middle of the afternoon, maybe before my workout during lunch, so that it gives me a little boost of energy and also vitamins that actually give your body real energy as opposed to just a feeling of clarity, which is what caffeine a lot of times does as a stimulant. It has lots of great ingredients that you'd be hard pressed to find at the grocery store. You'd probably have to buy 10, 11 different vitamins, but instead you could just use Magic Mind. And some of those ingredients are lion's mane, mushroom, chlorophyll, matcha, B vitamins, L-theanine, turmeric. All these things help you with cognition, energy, with less stress because you're not drinking as much caffeine. There's a little bit of caffeine in it. It's got matcha, but it supposedly extends the activation of caffeine throughout your day so that you don't have to just keep slugging more coffee. We know how that can make your stomach feel. So if you want to be creative and productive at work, feel energized and sharp as an athlete, if you might be an athlete, go to magicmind.com/Star Wars to get up to 40% off your first subscription or 20% off a one-time purchase with the code Star Wars 20 at checkout. Try it out, guys. You'll be supporting the show, and I think you'll be supporting yourself as well. Now, let's talk more about why I like the Dark Knight series from Christopher Nolan so much.
Something in the way. There's something in the way. Whenever I think about it, I just think about the Nirvana song.
He's very sad. It's a sad Batman, which is
There's something in the way. He's the
accurate.
Kurt Cobain of Batman.
He is the Kurt Cobain Batman.
Kurt Cobain of Batman.
So today I had a question for
Anyway.
Nick, and that was, what is your favorite Dark Knight Christopher Nolan movie?
This is kind of like a softball. It's obviously The Dark Knight.
Okay, The Dark Knight. And
That's the best one.
okay, and maybe I'll also ask you a follow-up is how do you rank all three? But first, maybe you can answer those in either order that you want.
This is the easiest question ever. It's The Dark Knight, it's Batman Begins, and then it's The Dark Knight Rises.
Okay, so walk me through that a little bit. Why do you rank them like that?
So The Dark Knight is a masterpiece. Like, it arguably is the reason why we have superhero movies in the MCU to begin with, because of its success and the grittiness. And I'm not saying the MCU is gritty by any means, but the grittiness and the, I guess, ingenuity and the whole Christopher Nolan-ness of it. Obviously, I'm a huge gomer for Christopher Nolan. And I know that having that project allowed him to do some of his best projects, in my favorite projects, I will say. So the fact that these movies exist means some of my favorite movies exist, like Tenet. I don't think you'd be able to do Tenet without the Dark Knight trilogy. But the Dark Knight hit at the right time. We had never seen anything like that. We had never seen, like, I remember thinking when I was in college and we heard news of Heath Ledger playing the Joker. I'm like, what? The 10 Things I Hate About You guy? Like that teen heartthrob, Heath Ledger. And
keep talking.
Boy,
I'm just going to close the window
about that. Okay. Boy, were we wrong about that. It's tragic, but it was the performance of his career, right? And then he made himself go crazy with it and then obviously passed away. Moving on to the Batman Begins is, I don't remember being super into Batman Begins, thinking like, oh, they're rebooting Batman? That's weird. And that was back in the time where reboots were not very common, so I just kind of didn't think about it and also wasn't into Batman at that time. But it is a solid reboot. It is very weird. It's a weird reboot. It's definitely in a different world than The Dark Knight is, I will say. Have you watched them recently?
I went and watched a little bit of Rises to prepare for this podcast. Just a little.
Because Batman Begins is in kind of a almost unbelievable world where you see the world, like you look at what Gotham City looks like and you're like,
it's very gothic.
That's not very real. And then literally Dark Knight is just in Chicago. So you're just like, oh, this is a real place. So it's almost like he didn't quite know what he wanted to do with the setting. And it's a more of a fantastical
I think a lot of that,
voyage.
Nick, in my view, is because a lot of it's during the day.
What, the Dark Knight?
Yeah, in my mind when
it's a daytime.
Yeah,
show.
which is odd for Batman.
Yeah, as opposed to the Batman. There's something in the way.
Yeah, and even Batman versus Superman.
Like, the Batman, you can't even see anything in the Batman unless you have an OLED.
You have to watch it at night in a very dark house.
Yeah. In a dark night. Yeah, it's very much. You're very right. It is. There's a lot of the Dark Knight just in the day, which makes it kind of cool for a Batman. And then the Dark Knight Rises just kind of doesn't work for me.
Okay,
it really doesn't. Like, it has some really cool ideas. Like the opening third of the movie is incredible. Like how we meet Bane in the plane, and the plane blows up, but they like hang off of the plane, like. No one cared about me until I put on the mask. Like that was so one of the best like introductions to a character ever. But the rest of the movie is kind of baffling.
I'm not going to disagree with you, but so much of Dark Knight Rises highlights for me are just worth it. All the craziness and convoluted plot.
Hasara, hasara, bang, bang, hasara, hasara. Whatever they're, what are they chanting? They're chanting like Rise.
Yeah,
right.
Peas and carrots. Like I don't know.
Yeah, peas and carrots. Hasara, hasara. Ah. And they like when he gets out of the pit, which also like, there's no way that prison exists. Come on,
dude, it exists. That's
that hole in the ground.
Yeah, that exists in the Dark Knight.
What?
Rises movie universe.
Oh no! Like,
why does it have to exist in real life for it to be cool?
Well, because it's supposed to be a nitty gritty. This is like realism type bullshit movie.
It's an origin story for Bane, and it's there for Batman, for Bruce to overcome, to become Batman again. He has to climb the pit.
Why does Bane have a Caribbean accent? I was born in delight.
Because Tom Hardy is
Bane.
Crazy.
He can't really do accents. It's true.
No, but Tom Hardy's
like
the
when he
best.
does his Eddie Brock accent. I'm just a simple reporter from San Francisco, but I sound like this.
He's
awesome. I got the venom. I this venom on me.
So is it good?
Venom 1. I mean, it's really silly, but if you can shake your sillies out, it's a good watch.
Oh man,
It's endearing. It's silly in an endearing way.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I could shake my sillies out. I guess
the third one is coming out this year.
I did see that.
It's called The Last Dance. Yeah.
Well, I know you and I are both we love Nolan. I think that I'm not as big of a Tenet fan as you. I did not understand the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It might be just an IQ problem,
You don't have to understand. You just have to
You have
feel
to feel it. Okay.
It has to be intuition.
So your ranking is number 1, Dark Knight. Number 2, Batman Begins. Number 3, Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah. Not only is Dark Knight Rises on my number, like the lowest part of the Dark Knight trilogy, I honestly think it might be Nolan's worst movie.
You just don't like. Do you even like it? Like, you don't even like it as a movie.
I like it. You know what? In terms of trilogy enders, I actually do like it a lot. Like, I think it's actually quite a nice end to a trilogy, but I don't like it as its own movie.
Yeah. I'm guessing that you probably saw this coming, but I rank it as my number 1.
It's your number 1? That is so crazy to me because I think no one else says that. Honestly, I think everyone's aligned with me on this one. I think you're just.
I don't know
wrong.
if it's the best. It's just my favorite, and maybe
your opinion is
wrong. That weak? Am I sounding like? Am I creating worse podcast content by saying that? I'm being honest.
No,
though.
Because I say this about the Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi is my favorite, but I think it's the worst of the original trilogy. But it's my favorite.
I could probably say the same. I don't know if I would even say that Batman Begins is like the better movie than Rises. I think Rises. I just think it has such a good character arc for that movie for Batman. And I think it has such a good contrast between the villain and protagonist. And yeah, there's just like a lot of other stuff going on too. There's a whole ton of crap that's happening. And there's a lot of side characters, tons of side characters that have their own plots that don't really matter to me in my ranking. But I would say probably it's just Tom Hardy's performance and the fight, their initial fight is just going to be... It's just going to be like lodged in my brain until I die about how good that fight was.
I think there's too many distractions in that movie, Chris.
There are.
The fact that they're cut off from the rest of the United States, but like nobody can do anything about it for like upwards of a year, right? Like it's many, many months.
Yeah.
And they just have their own government for a while. It's just very like the world building is too weird for me.
But you had to
I
it
really
was great though how they brought the Scarecrow in, how they brought him in to be the judge. You had to love that.
He's the judge, yeah. Yeah, and I mean obviously my stupid
it's
communist part of my brain, the communist part of my brain thought it was kind of fun how they just kicked all the rich people out.
There's a
of
storm
their houses
coming,
and then
Bruce.
Yeah. There's a storm coming, Bruce. So obviously that part was kind of fun, but I wish the plot was a little bit different. I wish it was tighter. The same characters and we're not talking the fact that they spend months that way is weird. Don't you think?
That it was happening that way for that long.
Yeah, so the football game happens and the field blows up and Bane comes out and says here's what's going on. I'm blowing up all the bridges. If anyone steps foot on this island, I'm going to kill everyone. I suppose I forget. Can you explain the movie to me?
No, I absolutely cannot explain the movie to you.
What is he doing? What does he want?
So it's a distraction. He's saying that I've given the trigger to the bomb to a random citizen of Gotham, right? And the trigger is with one of you, right? And that was never the case. No one ever had. He had it the whole time. They had the trigger, but that was part of the ploy, right?
And it was because he was with the daughter of Ra's al Ghul, right?
But we don't know that they're in league right now.
Yeah, but you do at the end of the movie.
Yes, yeah, the betrayal.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your question? What was the whole point, or what were they doing?
I don't understand because again, this is where it breaks out. I'm not usually a guy where the plot matters a lot to me because if it has good set pieces, if it brings an emotional response out of me, and I guess elicits any kind of feeling out of me, I'll forgive a lot of plot points. But I feel like the plot of that movie is just so fucking baffling that it's a distraction from everything else.
I can't defend that, Nick. I'm gonna have to agree, but I think just for me,
Okay.
I think it's a baffling plot. I think, in spite of all that, I still really liked it, and I think the second half is the weakest part, which we both agree on.
100%. First half or first third, whatever you want to say, I was wrapped in the theater. So I was like, holy shit, this is cool. Bane is cool. Littlefinger from Game of Thrones is like a cop at the beginning. Is like, man, the way that Bane is brought on screen is so amazing to me. Like,
nobody cared
and that whole plane
until I put on the mask.
Yeah,
absolute gut punch of a start for a movie with the plane scene.
Here, I know you're going to try to do a segue here soon. I know you are.
No,
I'm gonna do another
it's
segue.
over. We're done. That's it.
What? Okay. What?
No.
Do you not want me to do this?
Do it, Nick. What were you going to say?
Because I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you the connective tissue to Star Wars.
Okay.
It is a third installment of a trilogy that suffers from the death of a main character.
Okay.
If you're not following me,
Okay, so yeah, we got Rachel, right?
No.
Two-Face.
I mean, I'm sorry. The death of the real life actor.
Just
not having.
The actor
not being able to bring Heath Ledger out because, again, in the universe, Joker does not die, so he really should be in the third movie, right? Because if the inmates are running the asylum, literally, he should be out on the streets.
You sounded a little bit like Heath Ledger's Joker when you said literally. If the inmates are running the asylum.
literally, you want to know how I got these scars?
Bane thinks he was running the city.
Yeah. So, and to be completely honest, I think Chris Nolan probably had a third one written with Heath Ledger in it and then had to rewrite
I believe,
it.
I think I remember reading that.
Much like they had a Rise of Skywalker or whatever it was probably going to be before, written with Carrie Fisher in it, and they couldn't do it. So I think we have two major, like earth-shatteringly popular trilogies that suffered from the death of an actor.
That's interesting connective tissue that I had not thought of.
Yep.
And I do agree. I think
we would have completely different movies in The Dark Knight Rises and whatever they would have called the third installment of the sequels, Episode 9, if the actors wouldn't have died. In
one sense, I thought it was a poor decision to make Carrie Fisher the centerpiece of the sequels. I know it's easy to say in hindsight, but when you have an aging actress who hasn't really been in many major films over the last few decades, and you want to make her the centerpiece, and she's not in good health. I understand that they wanted to.
I don't think people knew just as much of bad health she was in.
Maybe I don't know, but people kind of, I don't know. She definitely was. She ran. She had a good life while she was alive. I'll say that.
She got some stuff.
Yeah. But maybe health aside, she was aging. She wasn't like a hot commodity. I don't see why you would, from that lens, I don't see why you would want to make her the centerpiece.
No. She was supposed to be, the third movie was supposed to be her movie because the first movie was Han's movie, the second movie was Luke's movie, and the third movie was supposed to be Carrie's movie. And what did they do? They brought back Luke and Han.
Whoops.
So, whoopsie. They're all three in here.
But Nick, do a dead Luke and a dead Han equal an alive Leia?
Alive Carrie? Sure, maybe.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Doesn't make. You're right. They probably had to pick up some pieces there. So that's an interesting connection. Does anything more from that connection, or do you want to hear what my connection was?
What's your connection?
Okay, so mine's from a story perspective. So, I was on a flight, Nick, last week to Austin,
and that's why you watched The Dark Knight Rises.
No, I literally just decided that I was going to sit there and think this through on a flight at 8 a.m.
Did you raw dog the flight? Have you heard of this?
I've heard of that, and I think that's insane.
You've heard of raw dog in flight?
No, I have heard of that.
No, dude, you got to do it. That is such an alpha brain thing to raw dog a flight.
I'll raw dog a part of a flight, not the whole thing.
I'll raw dog a flight as long as I'm not going overseas.
Oh man!
Anyway, if I'm flying anywhere in the United States, I'll raw dog.
You're not raw dogging it when you have a crying baby next to you. I'll tell you that.
Well, yeah, I'm physically unable to do that.
Okay.
Because usually the crying baby is mine.
Usually the crying baby is yours. Okay, so I don't know why this line just popped in my head, and it's from The Dark Knight Rises when Bane says to Batman, he says, "Peace has cost you your strength. Victory has defeated you." And I wanted to just like see where that thought process took me, and I was like, well, that's why Batman lost to Bane, because he tried to fight crime for the last 8 years between movies, right? Before The Dark Knight Rises, Bruce Wayne is like, I'm not really Batman anymore. I want to accomplish the goals of Batman as Bruce Wayne. I want to fight crime from the light. I want to fight it from the above board position. I want to fight crime with my money and with official institutions, right? So that's what he was doing for the past 8 years. And then when we find him in The Dark Knight Rises, we're all like, whoa, why is Bruce Wayne hobbling around with a cane? What happened to this guy? And I think that was like a shock when we all first saw that movie, right? It was unexpected.
Yeah.
So he tries to, when he sees Bane's happening, when he sees that that's a fight, when he sees that he is going to have to confront him, he is cautioned by Alfred not to go. He says, hey, have you seen this guy? Like, I got the footage right here. I've seen the tape. Like, this guy is ferocious. He is powered by his own belief. You can see it in his eyes. He was trained by Ra's al Ghul, the same mentor that you had, the same training that you had. And he's like, I know this type of guy. Like, you don't want to go in and fight him, Bruce. Like, I think you have a death wish. And I think you should not try to fight. And I just thought, and I was like, wait a second. Like, so we have an older, aging mentor telling the main character, the protagonist, not to fight the bad guy. And then in Empire Strikes Back, we have two aging mentors that tell Luke, don't go fight the bad guy. Yep. And I'm like, wait a minute, is there more? I wanted to see, like, is there more to this, or is that where the parallel ends? Like, there's differences and there's similarities, right? So let's go to, like, let's stay on The Dark Knight Rises for a bit. Like, let's finish this out. So in a narrative sense, the way that you have to write a story a lot of the time is that the main character is like, he doesn't quite know the truth, right? His own truth. The story is him figuring out what the truth is. Like, that's his character arc. Mm-hmm. And in The Dark Knight Rises, I think the truth that Batman and Bruce had to learn is that, like, look, you're not the big badass anymore in town. You are not the master of the dark. Like, the dark realm, like the city of Gotham and its criminal underworld, you are no longer its master. Bane is. And there's actually a line where he says, you think the darkness is your ally, right?
The classic.
Yeah, he's like, I was born in the dark, molded by it. I never saw the light until I was already a man, and by then it was only blinding to me. So he's basically telling me, he's like, dude, I am better at what you say you're the best at. And like, he does that after Batman, when they're in the middle of that fight, he shuts all the lights off. And he's like, no, dude, you're not getting it. I'm better than you in every single way possible. Like, I've owned you. And he's like, you don't know the truth. The truth is that I'm the best. You're not. And it's like, that's what victory had done to Bruce. He thought, well, I'm the best fighter. I've always won all the fights before. And so even though I've been hobbling around on a cane and I can just go get this little thing that fixes my leg. Oh, look, I kicked a brick wall. You guys all saw that. I'm ready to go, baby. Like, I'm Batman again. And Alfred's like, you think just because, like, you patched yourself up like that, you know, and you put the suit back on, that makes you Batman? You're not Batman anymore. Not now.
You're not him.
Yeah, you are not him. And so, you know, in the story sense and in a metaphorical sense, the truth literally breaks him through Bane. It's like he has to learn this lesson
through Bane, and like he learns all of it at once. Not all of it at once. He used to continue to learn it in the prison.
So you mean to say Bruce Wayne shows up in this, it's like a hole in the ground because they blew up underneath Wayne Enterprises to steal his toys, right? Mm-hmm. And so he shows up, and essentially Bane looks at him and says, "Vaxxed?" And Bruce Wayne's like, "Yep."
Yeah, and it's a life lesson here too, because it's like the worst, like the truths that hit you the hardest are always the ones that you most need to hear, or like you could flip that sentence. The truths that you most need to hear are the ones that are the most hurtful to learn. Like,
yeah,
like if you've got a car that's got a problem and you don't know much about cars, but you hear that little sound. And then all of a sudden you finally and then you're on the side of the road and you're in the middle of nowhere and your car's not working. It's like, well, you didn't know anything about cars, and this overwhelming nature of the car world, like, just kind of screwed you up. So it's like, he had to learn that truth. So it's kind of an interesting metaphor. You following me, or is this feel?
Yeah, no, I'm following.
Okay. So now from the other side of Empire, you have, so I feel like we can say that Alfred was right. Like he was totally right. Like he had wise counsel. So now we're back to Star Wars. Luke, hey,
that's the name of the show.
Now Luke and Yoda tell him, don't go into the fight. You're not ready. True. You're inexperienced. True. It's a trap. True. And Han and Leia dying would be a worthy sacrifice. Wrong, is what I think. I think that was wrong. And I think that was the dark side. Because it's not really, you're not really doing good. Like, they're basically telling him, like, no, sacrifice your friends. You need to become more powerful. Isn't that like what a Sith would say?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that kind of bad?
So there's kind of three directions that we can go with this, Chris. And I think, so now that we're back in Star Wars, right? So I've had some time to think about this now that you've brought it up. And I think this is the third and least likely thing that this is trying to say. And one is that both Obi-Wan and Yoda were so clouded by the dark side. And what I'm saying is like I guess the consequences of the prequels, because they were all definitely clouded by the dark side, and they were in a haze. Nobody could really understand what was happening until it was too late. And that they're still having the, I guess, detritus of that dark side war.
They're still in that mode.
Their brains.
Yeah.
They're still in that mode that they think that inaction is better than action.
Yes. And where did that get them?
So that's I think that is third and least likely. Second and middle likely is that they knew that Luke wasn't going to heed their warnings no matter what.
Okay.
And that they had to say no, don't go, so that he would go in the proper way. And these are all things that I think we need to unpack. Mm-hmm. So I think in this middle way, I think that he's going to go anyway, and he's going to learn this lesson and get knocked on his ass. But we also can't endorse it, because if we endorse it, then the learning, I think it cheapens the learning if we endorse it, is what they're saying. You know,
it would have cheapened
if
the
we
scene.
just say, yeah, you should go,
right?
Yeah, it would have cheapened the scene,
yeah,
for sure. I mean, in terms of plot, yes, it would have.
Yeah.
Yeah. But first, and I think most likely of what is happening here, is they truly believe, and I think this shows through in, I think, a lot of what's happening in the sequel trilogy. And unfortunately, the cancellation of the Acolyte will not allow us to, I guess, explore this idea anymore. But I think the true way, and both Obi-Wan's death, right, and his exile on Tatooine, and Yoda's exile on Dagobah, has taught them that complete withdrawal. I said that weird. Complete withdrawal from passion and reaction is more preferable to action.
Yep.
So I think that maybe it's a hybrid of 1 and 2, right? I think that when Yoda says you can't go now, it's not because he's not ready. It's just that you can't go ever. Because this withdrawal is what the Force calls for. Or, again, like I said, a little less likely, but also feasible, is they had to say that, and they knew that he was going to go anyway.
Okay. The one thing I never considered that they were saying it just to say it. I thought that they were saying it because they really didn't want him to go. And the reason I say that is because the look on Yoda's face when Luke says basically like, okay, like, well, he's like, fine, I'm going to do it anyways. And Yoda's face is like, his eyes get larger.
It's like, fuck you.
Yeah. His eyes get large and he's like, whoa, wait a minute here. You know, I'm Master Yoda. Like, you're not going to listen. But on the other hand, he does say to Ben, it's just like I told you, he's reckless. So maybe he knew that he was going to go.
Just like his father.
He's just like his father.
And then also he said there is another. You know, he's like, well, yeah, we still have.
But doesn't that show you kind of some cold calculation here?
Yeah.
From Yoda.
Yes.
And that's, I don't know, like, it makes me feel like Luke was right. I mean, I can say that with hindsight, but
well, let me cross streams again and let's go into the MCU.
Okay.
Do you kind of remember, like, so after Avengers, Iron Man / Tony Stark has some weird kind of PTSD. He's like very, very shook by the alien invasion that happens in New York, you know, brought upon by Loki, but also, you know, they create a lot of damage together with all of this stuff. And he goes into this sort of reclusive state where I can't remember exactly what he says and in what movie, but like, if it weren't for the Avengers, this stuff wouldn't be happening. Is the fact that we have such a coalition of powerful quote unquote heroes that we are drawing a target on Earth and just saying, come get us. Right. And I think that the Jedi have this same aspect. And I think that's explored in The Last Jedi a lot by Luke. And the reason why he's on Octo to begin with is he withdraws from the light side of the Force because he is the most powerful Force wielder, possibly even more powerful than his father, right? Maybe a shade weaker than his father. And he's a agent of the light side, right? And in his mind, he is drawing the attention of an equally bad countervalent force. And that, so in his mind, for balance, I need to just drop out completely and never commune with the Force. Don't talk to my friends, hang out with these nuns, and, you know, drink from the teat of this weird manatee thing. And I think that that's like the same aspect. It's like, the better I am, the higher my tree grows, the more that someone's going to want to cut it down. Mm-hmm. And then hurt others while they cut it down.
Yeah.
And do you want to purport that to Yoda's scene on Dagobah? Is he also saying like, well, the higher heights that you grow to is the lower lows that the evil is going to grow?
And I can see that mentality, but I think it's like a sick mentality. Like, it's the mentality of a loser. It's like, that's actually why I brought the victory has defeated you. And on the flip side, it's defeat has defeated you. Like, you've been accustomed to being a loser for so long, you can't imagine anything other than losing. So like, I can't be even good. I can't even be great because it just leads to bad things. Like, that's the mindset of Ben and Yoda. Like, no, stay behind. Stay with here and train.
Eat. Well, you had a good Yoda.
What?
You've never done the Yoda.
Watch before. Netflix with me, Luke. Just hang back, bro.
Like, I've got this sticky icky, Luke. Like, we could just chill.
Don't get into that starship. No. Here's good times. Like, he's like,
hit this bong.
Yeah. What's the point, man?
Let me show.
Point.
I have some really cool YouTube to show you.
Check out these videos.
Yeah. Do you listen to Rogan?
He goes off in the vaccine, bro. Vaccine he go off on.
They're lying to us, man.
Yeah, so it's like, don't be a loser. Like, don't. If you're the Jedi, you need to have a force. You need to have a purpose. That's like Bane. Like Alfred even says in the movie, he's like, look, that man has belief on his side. Like he has God, quote unquote, on his side. Like those punches, they have God like behind them. That's why they're hitting you so hard. And Batman's just like, oh, I'm so sad because like the girl that I liked, like she chose a different guy, and like I'm gonna be sad now. And like that's my punches are so weak. So yeah, I feel like Luke was never raised to be a loser, and he was the son of Anakin. So like he's just has a winner mindset. He's just like, nah, I'm going. Like, I'm going because like I just always win, and also like I'm a good guy and I save my friends because I'm a good guy, and like that's the light side. And it is reckless. So they're right in some ways, but
it has its limits, right?
It has its limits for sure. Yeah, both of them have their limits.
Mm-hmm.
So
and then he hits up against it and ends up the way he does in The Rise of Skywalker, or sorry, The Last Jedi.
And there's another parallel too, and that's the fact that Vader is also like Bane and Vader are both possessed of all of the truth in going into this fight. Like Bane got Bruce's fingerprints. He knew who he was. He knew where his armory was. Like he set the trap. Bane, and then on the other hand, it was a trap that Vader had set. He set the trap. He knew who Luke was. He knew that he was his son. He knew his identity. So both of these villains knew the identity of the protagonist, revealed it to them during the fight that they knew, and then revealed the truth to them. With Vader revealed it after he chopped off his hand. So they both left the fight maimed and with a little truth bomb at the end.
Mm-hmm. Man, okay, there's a lot of parallels there.
Interesting.
And usually, like, the cinema gets so simplified, where it's just like, well, we're gonna have another show where it's surprise, it's his dad, like where that's similar. Whereas this rhymes, to put it in George Lucas terms, this rhymes in a completely different way.
Yeah,
it's cool, man. I think it made me reconsider these movies for being a little bit more to them than you might think, with the way they're written. Like the way, if you look at it from like that narrative sense. So yeah, think about that next time you're watching. Do you agree, fans? Do you agree that Yoda and Ben are losers? They weren't losers necessarily when they were younger. That's why I like to call Ben now in the original trilogy. Yeah. Because Obi-Wan I think was pretty dope, and then after he's like, becomes Ben and he's just like a hermit.
Well, but dead Ben, ghost Ben, is supposed to have more knowledge, right? Like he's completely joined and communes with the Force, and then he comes back as a Force apparition, and you got to think that he knows better, right? Like, but he kind of just plays off like, oh, well, he's reckless and he's just gonna go off and whatever. And maybe that's all a ploy, right? That's just, hey, Yoda, you're still alive, so you don't even know. Like, you don't even know what's going on. I do. I've seen the Force. I commune with the Force. You are just really good at meditating, which I guess didn't help you in the prequels, right? But on the other hand, with Yoda, I think he has cycles. I think he has cycles of clarity. And, him being around almost 1,000 years has helped that. He has cycles of fogginess and clarity.
And he has his bad days.
And I think... The Empire Strikes Back, I think he's a little cloudy. And by the time Luke comes back in Jedi, I think he's completely clear. I think he knows, and that's why he allows himself to just fucking die. Just like, okay, I did my thing in I guess last year or 3 years ago, however many years you think progressed between Empire and Jedi. 3 years ago, I gave you what you needed to know, and now I'm just gonna go fucking die.
Hey man, it's a good time to die.
Mm-hmm.
You youngsters,
it's a good time. It's always a good time to die.
You youngsters can go fight this out now. I'm out. Which maybe he should have not died necessarily, but maybe he should have bowed out of the fight a little while ago. Maybe in the prequels, this is something that Joe from the Brothers Corinne said. He said he's a good teacher, great teacher. he obviously he trained a lot of good Jedi, but maybe he wasn't the best leader of the Jedi.
Yeah. His role, he kind of found himself on Dagobah, I think. And maybe that's a little bit of a retcon, right? Because that's how we know him from the original trilogy. That's how he was written in the 70s and 80s. And then all of this backstory in the prequels and Clone Wars and all the other stuff that's happening. Those are a little bit of retcons, right? Like, he was a leader at one point. But, like, did we need to make him, like, a leader of a Jedi Council, or could he have always been this wise old hermit?
That's a great thought.
And I suppose maybe he needed to have that journey. He needed to realize, much like me, when I was in leadership, I realized I was shit at it and that I should go off on my own. So I think maybe he needed to get those hard knocks of failure and just, I ought not be the spiritual director of this entire religion, and I need to go sit in a swamp and then provide some insights here and there.
I wonder if it would have been fun for Yoda to have stayed being a craggly, weird dude throughout the prequels as well.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that could have worked.
Yeah, he was always somebody you go to visit.
Yeah.
Right? He is not somebody who's like in the Jedi Temple. Like, he's well known. He's not a secret, right? It's not like he's hidden away. Like, he's well known. He's one of the most wise Jedi you've ever met. But, like, he certainly didn't need to pick up a lightsaber and fight Dooku. Like, that did not need to happen.
He's the guy that you need to go visit. He's not just going to be here. Of course, he's not hanging around Coruscant.
Mm-hmm. No. What does he need to be in the mix for?
No.
Right?
That would have been interesting. I don't, and then you would not have. It would not have made a lot of sense for him to be fighting Dooku, but
right,
we did get a cool CGI fight out of that.
Yes. The more and more I think about it, I think that scenario one is the case, though, Chris. I think he was genuinely wanted Luke to withdraw, and I think he was feeling a little bit of what Obi-Wan was feeling in exile, right? And what Luke himself felt in exile in The Last Jedi. Just like the less good, the less of us there are in the universe, the less bad there is in the universe. And yeah, your friends might suffer, and yeah, some bad things might happen, but you getting thrown in the mix is just going to put a target on the entire apparatus.
And that's the same attitude that they had throughout the prequels. And maybe in Acolyte, don't know about that, but in the prequels, they said, don't go after this Palpatine guy. That might not look good for the cameras. The press, politically, that may not be good for us. I know this Palpatine, he's starting to throw shade here at the council. He seems to be allying himself with Anakin against us. But no. Let's not take action, because that could blow back. We need to wait.
Yeah, that could look bad.
We need to wait and be patient.
Yeah, it's the whole Tony Stark. He wanted to accept the Sokovia Accords. He wanted to pull back the supers, for lack of a better word, because it just drew a giant target on Earth 6. What is it? 616? Whatever the Earth is in the Avengers. Yeah. Just like everyone wants to come and knock down the tall tree.
But guess who didn't believe that? Captain America, and that's because he believed in himself.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And he believed in America.
And more importantly, he believed in America.
Yeah. And support our troops. He was a troop, so he was supporting himself.
He supported himself. Good man there.
Mm-hmm. It was a troop.
Well, this could be one of our shorter episodes, Nick.
I think so. I think this was this was one of our meditative episodes. This was not like a research heavy one. We didn't have to think about our favorite things, I guess, like our last one with favorite sounds, shout out. This was a meditation in the Force.
Do
you feel enlightened?
I feel like I've become a step closer to the Force, Nick.
Do you feel you're one step closer to the edge and you're about to break? Everything you say to me
That should have been
one step closer to the edge.
They should have used that with Anakin at some point.
They should have used real songs, right? They should
He
have
is
used
fighting and killing the,
like they should have put some Steely Dan in Star Wars, you know? Maybe a little
They should have used that music when he was just chopping off heads.
Maybe a little Zeppelin, you know, dude? A little immigrant song. Yeah.
Like how they introduce every like Suicide Squad movie.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, everyone. Well, this has been Star Wars Loose Cannon. I hope you all learned something today, or that you vehemently disagree with our takes. And if that's the case, shout us out on social media.
Fuck off.
Yeah, no. You know
Shut
what?
the fuck
Screw you if you disagree.
You know what? Guess what? If you disagree with me, I don't fucking care. If you don't like The Acolyte, thanks for killing a show that was cool.
Yeah,
Fuck
and you're
off.
ugly and dumb.
Yeah, you should have watched the goddamn show. All right, if you're like old, like me, if you're an old head, go travel back to 1997 and tell yourself, however age you were in 1997, that you and all of your friends online complained so hard about a show that was Star Wars that you got it canceled, and see what that person thinks about you. That person would be ashamed of you.
You did what? You did what?
I know. Okay, fine. I understand. It wasn't just the dude bros online that got. Apparently, it did get really, really bad ratings. Whatever. But it's just
besides the fact that it got
fine.
bad ratings and that it had a huge budget, which
and it was a critical flop, and then a lot of people hated it.
Besides
and everyone
all
like
of that,
memed it in a negative way. Besides
yourself.
all of those ways, it was pretty cool. And you are a bigot for hating it.
Yeah, that's us signing off. You chew on that, guy.
Yeah, you chew on that for a little bit while you listen to the next podcast.
Just like and subscribe, please.
I can subscribe. Yeah, please engage with my content.
And please keep coming back. We really need listeners.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's it. Everyone, have a good week. May the force be with you. Bye.
Goodbye.